Project 571, genetically engineered vampire created to destroy evil.
What do you want?
We need your help to kill a vampire.
Malleus Maleficario. It was written by a witch. The first witch. Titania.
That was a little snippet from The Witch's Hammer, the first film I ever solo directed, and it's just been remastered and re-released on Amazon. So if you like witches and vampires, then please do check it out. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode.
But I knew that this tech, I'm like, this is going to go somewhere where it could potentially help us or it could potentially harm us.
Hi, Jim here, and this is the Honest Filmmaker. I thought I'd put a warning ahead of this episode because this episode does talk a lot about AI, and having put a couple of videos up that have conversations about AI, I know that people can be quite passionate about their stances for and against. So in this episode, I talked to Jonathan Younger, who's a film producer who also manages an AI company called Arcana Labs. Now, bit of background on Jonathan before you watch the episode. He's a very well-established filmmaker. So he's worked on a ton of movies you will recognize. I'll put his IMDb link below. So he has got the pedigree there. And I've tried to ask him all of those questions that you guys have been putting in the comments on my other videos and a bunch of other questions. So hopefully we get some answers to some of the concerns filmmakers have and also some of the questions filmmakers have about how to actually utilize AI. Here's the episode. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, James.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So this could potentially be a controversial episode as AI with filmmakers can be quite a touchy subject. Now, you're the founder of Arcana Labs. Can you, before we talk about the AI thing, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Because I just want to get the background on you as a filmmaker.
Sure. And thanks again for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be with you. I've been in the movie business and a filmmaker for the better part of about 17 years. I work mostly in the independent space. I was with the company Millennium for many, many years as a producer, the president, casting. In every sense of the word, I'm a traditional filmmaker. I've built franchises with the company over the years, like Expendables, the Has Fallen series, The Hitman's Bodyguard, Rambo. I just finished production on Rambo in Thailand. We were there for about 4 months. And I actually have a movie coming out this month in theaters called Lucky Strike, I'm actually headed to DC on Monday for the premiere. Traditional movie. I love film. I've wanted to do it since I was a kid. I think to date I've done about 48 or 49 films, something like that. And my movies have grossed about $2.5 billion in the global box office over the last decade and a little bit, something 10, 12 years, I want to say, something like that. And the business model that I always work in is the independent business model, where we package a movie, take it to the film markets like Cannes or AFM, pre-sell, and go and try to make our stuff. But I would say over the last 7 years, 6, 7 years, that model, in my opinion, has been under attack for so many reasons. And I don't mean under attack in like a malice way. I just mean progress, revenues, streamer. I mean, it all plays a factor. And so we knew we had to lower the costs, but raise production value to save the business, in my opinion. So
Right.
that's
So yeah. So that's, I guess, what I was trying to establish there is with a lot of AI, you assume it's somebody who's got a lot of money, done a startup. I've created an AI business. Here it is. But you're actually a filmmaker who's made a bunch of stuff. I'll put a link to your IMDb on because there's a ton of films on there. Everyone's going to recognize. So so you're a filmmaker, traditional filmmaker. What's made you decide to set up Arcana Labs?
First of all, I wanted to set up an AI company like I'd want a hole in the head. Like,
Nice. Okay.
honestly, that
Yeah.
was not what I was trying to do. I got hip to AI some years ago when I was making a movie called The Crooked Man. I didn't know AI was used in that movie, but I'm giving context. So that was part of the Hellboy universe. And so that was about 5 years ago at this point, and I learned about Midjourney on Discord. And I saw it for the first time, and I was like, this is cool, but this can't be used professionally. This is ridiculous. You're just talking to a chatbot on your phone and trying to just make these ridiculous photos. But I knew that this tech, I'm like, this is going to go somewhere where it could potentially help us or it could potentially harm us. And I think this acronym AI is, I think in my business and in any business really where there's any sort of progress, there's fear first, right, of change and all this stuff. And then maybe after the fear goes away, there's more excitement when we kind of realize it. Here's the deal. Most of the AI company I built in Arcana that I built with my partner, we didn't have millions and millions of dollars to do this. Like we really bootstrapped it. I think we probably raised maybe 5% or 4% or even 3% of what normal AI companies did. I had no intention of even turning it into a company to sell. I saw potential in being able to save movies, and we can get into that a little bit more. And we were trying to just build it for ourselves in the beginning. And like I said, the independent business is under attack in the sense that if you look through the mid 90s and the mid 2000 through the mid 90s and the mid 2000s or the early 90s to the mid 2000s, that was like the heyday of independent film. That was when there was creative risk. I think some of the movies that we identify the most with that you really feel something or really can change your life, or maybe that was a little extreme to say, but can help you, um, are the independent films. And once the video revenue and all that stuff was gone, that creative risk was gone. And so I think that AI tools, as a tool and in the right hands, can allow for creative risk again. And I think that that's missing today, in film and television.
Sure. And I'd say that those 90s independent films is probably why a lot of people at my age ended up making films or ended
Correct.
up going to study film and be part of that. So what do you think, what do you think's the thing that people most misunderstand about AI in
I think that
filmmaking?
I think that in generative AI, people think that there's like some button that you press, and then all of a sudden you've got a film,
Mm.
and that's it. And that there's no real art or technique behind it. And that's just simply not true. It's just simply not true. It's a tool set, just like VFX tools are a tool set. It can be used and what it can be used for, and it's hard to use. It's funny. We had someone that uses, I'll give you like a little story about it. There was an artist, a designer who made a really cool, he made this like there was a rap battle video thing that came out in AI where it was like Popeyes versus McDonald's, and this guy took it upon himself to make the one where like McDonald's is like answering the rap battle. It was an unbelievable music video.
Mm.
It's crazy. It looked like it cost millions of dollars. He released it and just put it out there, and it was very funny. And off of that, he started getting a lot of work. And my co-founder, Hank, was talking to him and he's like, so you used Arcana to make this? He goes, yeah. And he goes, how long did it take you? He goes, 3 days. He goes, it took you 3 days? And he goes, no, it didn't take me 3 days. It took me 20 years plus 3 days. And that's where us, as the filmmakers and the creatives, we are the 20 years. The tech in Silicon Valley, they're the 3 days. The 3 days doesn't work without the 20 years. So, in other words, the knowledge and the know-how that we have, it's paramount to that. And for these tools to be developed in the hands of people like us, people like yourselves, Jane, people like me, other artists and filmmakers, that's the most important thing because that's going to dictate what happens with these tools going forward. We're Arcana as a platform has been accepted by the studios. We consult. We consult on AI Act. We're very, very into intellectual property and copyright. If you know anything about my career, you know that I spent a large portion of my career advocating for intellectual property and copyright, from testifying in front of the Judiciary Committee on the DMCA notices to writing op-eds for The Hill about piracy and all of these things. So these are very important things, especially as an independent. I'm an independent filmmaker. I'm not from the studio. I don't have a theme park. I don't have the merchandising. We just have our libraries. And so how can we parlay that and use these tools to be able to really lower the barrier to entry? Why can't we need to find the next Paul Thomas Anderson and give them an opportunity, you know?
Sure. So we touched on copyright there because that's another thing I think filmmakers would be concerned about. So things like if I use your system or another AI system to create a scene or an element within a scene, this might be a stupid question, but is that thing that I've created, can I copyright that if a system has created it?
Well, it's not that the system has created it. It depends what your workflow is.
Mm,
And according to the Copyright Office, it's got to be artist-driven AI. And what I mean about that is it's got to start with human first. So Arcana, we're doing full-blown movies right now for
mm,
people. Not fully Gen AI, they're blends. And it's almost like kind of like we're doing visual effects for them. And we start with human storyboards, human sketch artists. Um, I don't think that there's anything out there right now that can compete with the warmth of a human hand drawing out a storyboard or drawing or designing a creature or something like that. We start with that, and then we start to animate within the system. That's copyrightable. Now, and then another thing, using Arcana specifically in the enterprise environment for a production company. I'm not a D2C platform. I have no care. We're not concerned with people making cats on TikTok and using our
mm.
stuff. Don't care about that. We care about production companies, real artists, filmmakers, people from the advertising industry using our stuff. So in the enterprise environment in Arcana, you're basically living in a sandbox, and we figured out security protocols where your data doesn't mix, which is why we're approved by certain major studios, other mini majors, and streamers we're being used for as we speak.
Right.
So that's
Yeah. Does that, because the other thing that people don't like is that the way the models are trained and what they're using to be trained, and whether you're going to see something that looks like someone else's work. So is yours, for example, is that trained on your back catalogue? Is it trained on absolutely everything in the universe? Where does it get all its input from?
Arcana uses all of the models. They're all available.
Yeah.
Depending on which studio it is, sometimes we turn some off, keep some on. That's depends on the rules of whatever studio or production company is using it. We leave that in their hands. But again, data going outside doesn't mix. When you feed in your own storyboards plus your prompts and plus a few other things, you're basically just using that. I have a different I have a different opinion about the whole thing about the large language models and the data. I don't see that as an issue because and again, I'm actually a plaintiff in a major copyright lawsuit right now.
Nice.
I sued an ISP in Canada um, for something, but I don't think that that's an issue because because if you're using the AI as an assistant. Now, here's the thing: if you go and make Transformers, you can make a full Transformers movie. That's wonderful, but good luck distributing it
Mm.
because you're getting a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
If I ask you today, James, to draw a dragon, James, if I tell you right now, draw a dragon on a piece of paper,
Mm.
where are you pulling from? Have you ever seen a dragon in real life? Have you had your own experience with a dragon? You're pulling from probably Game of Thrones, probably some other thing that you've seen, and that's literally what's going on with the large language model. The only difference is, and The only difference is it's a lot of data. Now, people are trying to do this thing where they're licensing data and then they're training on it, and it's working, but it's kind of falling by the wayside. I was into it. We were trying to do that. We have models inside of Arcana that are built like that. Um, but again, you need to be following just the rules and laws of copyright when you're creating something. You can't go and create Super Mario and decide that you're going to pawn that off as yourself, but you can create something original. I think everything that's made is inspired by something, you know.
Yeah, I guess the bit that's difficult though for me is I couldn't create Super Mario because I would get sued. However, if I used an image from a, independent artist as inspiration for something, they're not going to have the capacity to sue me. The copyright does, you know what I mean? There's not going to be a lawsuit. It's just going to be me using something that's similar to theirs. So
That
does
happens in copyright every single day. The laws of copyright when something is similar
yeah,
or something this that has its own jurisdiction, that has its
yeah.
own stuff that you deal with, whether you're using AI or not. That's always been around. That's not going anywhere.
And is
And
it, sorry to interrupt you, but does
yeah,
it,
sure.
again, this might seem a stupid question, not my area of expertise, but is there any kind of like percentage limits on how much of something else it uses? Or does
Yeah.
it make that decision when it's building
No,
that
it
thing?
doesn't. You decide that. But like in Arcana, for example, you can't upload likenesses. Like when you're in an enterprise, you can't upload likenesses. You can't I can't take a picture of like Woody from Pixar or something and
Mm.
upload it. It'll flag it.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Actually, this happened recently. This happened actually just a couple of days ago. We have our own service company, like that we do production services. So we've just been hired recently to do a full animated series for a major studio, of which we're helping design the characters. We're working hand in hand with the studio, and it's a major, major studio, and they know exactly what we're using. You can imagine what kind of due diligence goes into something like this. We were trying to do something. My own platform blocked me from doing it 2 days ago because I realized we forgot to show ourselves
Mm.
there was that we had the intellectual property to
Right.
be able to do this because we had a
Yeah.
contract with the studio. And I was like, why am I getting blocked? And then I realized that my one of my guys didn't put in the proper documentation and show the model companies, show ourselves. And then so we take that stuff, like I said, in an enterprise environment in Arcana, we take that stuff very seriously, and we're also changing with the times. We
Yeah.
constantly update. There are full documents you can pull down, like chain of title documents and things inside of
Mm.
Arcana Enterprise, where you could see the metadata of how you got from point A to point B. And those are the things that you can send to the Copyright Office, and the Copyright Office will decide this is copyrightable, this isn't, this isn't, this is. It's kind of like in a movie. There's things
Mhm.
that are like cleared, there are things that are not cleared. There's things that, and so, but it's funny, everyone's talking about the copyright thing, but we're talking about an industry that is about 90% unemployed. So now we're talking about tools that you can employ to help people get jobs. People think that this
Mm.
is going to destroy jobs. We're helping people get jobs. And I don't mean to sound like a politician, but I'll give you an example. A film school. Did you go to film school, James?
Yeah.
Okay. In film school, you have your few years, you make your capstone project at the end, but and then any filmmaker, I don't care who it is, you've got a lot of bad movies inside of you that need to come out before the good ones come out. So imagine in that 3 years or 4 years, whatever it is in film school, that you're instead of doing 2 movies or 5 movies, you can do 20 and get it all out. Then from there, if you're lucky, what happens is you graduate, right? You have this short. Off of the short, someone says, you know what? That's a pretty cool short. I'm going to give you $1 million or 700 grand to make a horror film. Now, between 700 grand and $1 million, What do you have? How many days do you have to shoot your genre picture? 15 days? 16, 17? Maybe for a million, you'll get 20. So now, okay, you have it, and you're a first-time filmmaker and you're doing it. Have you shot a movie in 18 days before, 17 days? It is hard to make it good, to make it great.
Mm.
What if now you can employ these tools in your insert shots, establishing shots to give scope, creature and character design that you would normally never have money to do, you can do, and you can basically shave 3, 4 days off the schedule of where you would have done things to give the movie scope and vehicles driving and stuff, because you don't have the money for that with that. You want to focus on your actors and your scares, and it'll give the director that time to be able to do that. Now you have just lowered the barrier to entry for the director and give them a bigger shot to get noticed and give that movie scope. Because most of those movies, 90-something% of those movies, they just fall by the wayside. They go nowhere. And you know what happens to that director? They're back at square one. And so these are just tools to enable, if you can use them correctly, if you can use them thoughtfully, that can get someone to the next level. I have guys that I discovered just using Arcana via Instagram early on that are now working that have full-blown jobs with us now, making and animating things. One of our animators for this project, he's a guy in Kentucky. He's been teaching animation for 30 years. Life had different plans for him, but when I show you, when you see this type of talent that this guy is, it's a shame that he wasn't able to do what he was able to do because life had different plans and he tried and he couldn't, and there was money was always an issue, and there was always these things, and because of Arcana, we greenlit a full animated series of his that was basically drawn in a composition notebook that's been sitting there for 15 years, and we're helping him make it
Yeah.
right now. So
Okay.
now, so that's the positive part. Like
Yeah.
we focus a lot on the negative part of AI, and it's going, and SAG made this announcement. None of the actors are going to. Who is SAG talking about right now? The 1% of the actors that works? Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, who cares? Honestly, I'm being to say, maybe I'm saying something controversial. Who cares? They're fine. Like it's so funny how SAG is like getting involved in like pushing the thing on the vertical dramas and stuff like that. This is outside of the air. It's like you've got actors that are now making $25,000-$30,000 a month doing verticals and not having to work in restaurants. We should celebrate that. You shouldn't knock that, you know? So that this is the era that we're entering in, the era where a person can take their career into their own hands and do something about it finally.
Yeah.
And AI tools are a big part of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I will stop pummeling you with all the ethical copyright questions in a minute
By the
because
way, James, I can do anything. You want
you
to
can
go
do it all
ethical,
day.
whatever you want.
Because I guess because there is another side to this. So recently put up a conversation with a filmmaker who's very anti-AI, and I got a big mixture of comments from filmmakers who were completely against it, but also filmmakers who use it. And I know a lot of micro low budget filmmakers who have started to embrace it, use it in with their productions, and like you say, suddenly it looks like they've got a lot more money on screen and they're doing things that they would never have had the money to employ someone to do anyway. So they're getting these AI models to do it. I guess the last piece, just to close that conversation off, would be, is there any, and this is one of those questions, but is there any danger then? Obviously, you've done a ton of stuff. You've got the animation guy, 30 years behind him. But then do you not worry that the student hasn't got that experience? So isn't there an element of them skipping the hard part and getting
No,
straight to the
first of all, they can do whatever they want, but that I leave that to the education system. Traditional filmmaking and learning theory and history. That's why I talked about the 20 years plus 3 days. You still need all of that stuff, and you still need to work on sets. By the way, I don't use AI for everything. I just shot Rambo. 99% of that movie is in camera. But but that's because we have about 40 or $50 million with Lionsgate to go and make the movie. That's a whole different ball of wax. We're fine. I'll be fine. Like I said, I didn't need to make an AI company, but I truly believe, just like I fought on the Hill on behalf of creatives, I'm fighting in the AI space on behalf of creatives to say again and screaming from the rooftops, we're the ones who need to dictate these tools. We're the ones who need to do it. Just so you know, the Arcana motto is artist-driven AI. We start with human touch points. We use some animation with AI. Post is 100% traditional. Editing is 100% traditional. We have no AI tools for any of that stuff. Like I said, there is nothing like an editor. An editor is the last writer. To be able to shave a frame or add 2 frames in an editing room, that's an art. That's not, that's a computer should not be touching that or doing that, you know? But like, I think like any new tech, it's again, there's first this fear and then excitement, but there are so many positives coming out of it, you know? And if we, the more we learn and the more we educate ourselves, the more we can also be aware of the negatives.
Mm.
Because right now, people are just aware of the negatives. And most of the people that I talk to in the negative have no idea what artificial intelligence is, what it does, how it works. I'll give you another example. A friend of mine just finished shooting a major motion picture. It's in the indie space. Arcana was just retained to do about 25 visual effects shots for it. It's live action. It's an action movie. Obviously, I have a little bit of experience with action movies, you know, and explosions. The movie's 5 million over budget. They have no money to go to a traditional VFX house. Arcana became the savior pretty much. We came in and we showed them how we can do this, make it look great, make it still theatrical. You know, we Arcana, we developed software recently that we use internally where we could take AI assets and turn them into log or raw files. So you can do traditional DI, color grading, all that stuff to put it kind of into the traditional post process. It's a major, major for us. I look at that software as the bridge between
Mm.
Hollywood and AI. Otherwise, the movie's dead in the water. And that's a movie where people just went and shot 8 weeks. They shot in Mexico, they shot in Arizona, they shot in this. This is a crew of 300 people. This is a serious movie. And they're 5 million over. Stuff happens. So what are you supposed to do? Run and try to go get them. What I'm doing with them for those at 20 shots, that would cost $600,000-700,000, maybe 800 grand. On the higher end with like the ILMs and the wetters, it will cost $1.5 million. Arcana is doing it for a fraction of that. And now they're alive, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a movie with a movie star and actors and all. So that's what I'm talking about here.
And that film, as an example, is that all additive stuff, or is there any shots that you think that are completely AI that we wouldn't even know are completely AI?
How many shots are there that are completely visual effects that you don't know? What's the difference?
Um, I don't know, but then I don't know, maybe what I wouldn't be able to spot in a film is where they've added something to it, they've covered something up, they've done a bit sneaky. I think I can usually spot a CG shot on a
Right. There's
on a
certain
movie.
things you can spot in a CG shot and stuff, and you might be able to spot it in this movie,
Yeah,
but most of the stuff is blends. Like they've
yeah.
shot things on blue, and then we're building out plates, or we're iterating on the plates that they have.
Mm,
Um, all the assets that we built are based on they're all the real assets that we use photographs that from the set photographer of like the cars and the weapons or whatever that we're doing, and we're helping rebuild stuff out. We're using gray stage stuff for that, or you know, this new term that Interpositive came up with, which Arcana has been doing for over 5 years already.
mm,
But but yeah, so but otherwise they were dead in the water.
yeah,
And you want to make it look good. I mean, this is a $20 million movie or
yeah,
maybe $15 million movie. It needs to look good. But we're doing blends. Like everything is based on storyboard. Everything is based on the storyboards, based on the data of the movie, based on like all of that stuff. It's not like we're building out full new things that were never in the movie before.
yeah.
These are all stuff that's in the movie, you know.
It,
We used for example, they used an Arai camera
mhm.
to drive around the streets of this certain city where like the cars are doing like these crazy chases. we use that footage and we place the car and we help, expand set extensions, things like that. It's the same thing as visual effects. It just doesn't cost as much. And you
Yeah.
need artists. Like we have artists drawing things out. We have like it's not like I have again someone sitting and just pressing a button,
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about it is you can iterate and iterate and iterate till you get it right. It's kind of like you're employing the old Pixar model where, or even go back, the Disney model, where until they go to animation, they would redo it and redo it and redo it and redo it till it's perfect. I mean, we all know the first cut of Toy Story was horrible,
Mm.
but they redid that movie like 50 times because they were able to, because they had computers. They were doing it on computers. So it's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, and you kind of do it. And again, I believe in blends. I have no interest in AI actors. I think that that's stupid. I think it's ridiculous. I think if you want to connect with an audience, you need a human being. They've
Right.
lived a whole life. There's something missing from these like AI performances. All the, when production companies come to us and they ask us to do AI like voiceovers and stuff like that, we do not do that.
Mm.
I'm like right now we're scheduling the table read with all the actors as we're finishing up the casting for this like animated series. There's AI elements in it. It's all starting by hand and then it's going to be animated by AI, but everything else is human. We're doing, probably 30 or 40 voiceover sessions like in person, getting the stuff. And so it's these blends. Again, it's a tool.
Mm.
It's used as tools,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And it's interesting you say that about the performance, because I guess where I was leading with that was how far off do you think we are seeing a convincing 100% AI movie? Is that how many years away from that? Have we got that? I mean, I know there was one at Cannes, but I saw some shots from it and it still looked a bit.
yeah, I think we're a little bit ways away. We made one a couple years ago called Echo Hunter, where we actually made the first fully Gen AI movie that got a SAG contract, as we were trying to show to work with the unit and we shot. We did the first iteration of the gray stage, right? We
Yeah.
were first, like to do that, and we did it in a very kind of rough sort of way with the actors. It was okay. It was like, but I don't think we're fully there for fully Gen AI. You need human beings. But I think that there's something too that now you can have like um human, let's say you're shooting a scene at a dining room table where everyone's sitting around and you're moving your camera around or you're shooting the scene, excuse me, or you're shooting the scene, and then you can build the whole background.
Mm. Yeah.
When it's right, which is normally a VFX shot, but that's just there's a difference between doing that for 100 grand and then there's a difference between being able to do it for 20 grand, like
Yeah.
it just allows you. I'll give you another example. There's I'm going to talk about this on the news next week. So I'm going on CNN next week, but the there's a docu-series that was made by a production company called Primary Source. They're an excellent company. They do anything historical, American history. They have a podcast. They've been doing a lot of videos for like in the Library of Congress and like the Eisenhower Museum. Like all they do really great things. So they shot this 6-part docu-series called Revolutionary, which is the life of George Washington,
I've
and they're
seen some of
making.
those. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some online. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and so it is like really cool. And what they do, they shot it for like nothing. They hired a bunch of actors to go in a black box pretty much. And when they tried to go out with it, they got a lot of passes because they were like the production value is not so high. So we came in and we helped create scenes based on oil paintings and based on, old like stuff that's hundreds of years old and built Washington and Barbados, the Revolutionary War. We used the scene recently was a scene that they shot at Mount Vernon. They shot a scene at actual Mount
Mm.
Vernon, which is kind of cool. That there was like a whole like dinner scene and stuff. We did a gray stage for it. Like we were able to add in certain things and make it like really like real of what it was like back then. And so that helped raise the production value. Now they have a shot at distribution. There's two distribution companies looking at it now very, very seriously. And this is a little independent historical production company,
Yeah.
that's trying to just do stuff,
Yeah.
you know? So that's where I think it helps and it matters. And because all the big directors in the big, they're going to be fine.
Mm.
Nolan's always going to get another movie.
Yeah.
Fincher's always going to get another movie. Spielberg doesn't have an issue. But it's the new Spielberg, the new Nolan, the new Fincher. Where are they? Let's help those guys get over it, get up here.
Yeah, definitely. So then my last controversial topic of AI, which I should cover, we hear a lot about environmental damage. So water to cool things down. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something
Yeah.
that comes into play with
You
your
mean like,
company?
you mean like data centers and stuff?
Yeah, data centers and the environmental impact of using AI.
Yeah. I actually think it's a big issue right now. Um, I just started to learn more about it, and I was watching some stories, and it's kind of like the Aaron Brock. It's almost like the Aaron Brockovich story of what's
Yeah.
going on in some of these smaller towns. Um, I I have to have faith in humanity, just like the electric car was able to come around and stuff like that. I have to have faith that they're going to figure something out. I know that NVIDIA is trying to get things smaller, try to get the chips smaller, try to get, and I know that in Europe, they're trying to make environmentally friendly data centers. I don't know. I'm not I'm not a tech guy, and I don't know, but I love the environment. I don't know what the solution is. I'd be the last person to actually know what it is. But I think that we have enough great minds in the world that will understand that there's an issue and it needs to be fixed because this technology is not going anywhere. And data in general, outside of even just AI, just data centers and stuff in general for the clouds and all kinds of stuff, they're getting bigger, and we have to figure out a way to make them smaller. It's very easy for like you or I to say like we have to figure out a way to
Mm.
make them
Yeah.
smaller. Like we're the ones actually doing it, but we have to. They have to, and I'm sure like we have to like lean on our scientists and the people who work on these things, you
Yeah.
know.
It would be lovely if that wasn't part of this whole thing. I think that would make a lot of people feel more comfortable, um, because it's kind of like an added problem on top of all of the other things we've talked about that you've obviously got a certain way you're working with it. Other people might not be so careful with stuff. But the environmental thing, I think, it can be a bit of a hitch for people.
Yeah.
So just to finish off then, so what do you think if you're advising someone who's starting out, they're making the first feature film, very low budget, micro budget even, what are the best things they could use AI for, in your opinion?
Um, what's cool, I think it'll allow them to change the genre. Like today, someone can make a short, like a sci-fi short, even if they wanted to, which is kind of cool. Maybe they had that inside of them that they wanted to get out. A
Hmm.
lot of first short films are like pretty super, super contained, and it's like two guys in a room or a couple guys in a car or whatever it is. I think you can do stuff like that. You'll have to storyboarding. I, storyboarding is your best friend when it comes to using these kinds of tools, like real storyboard, like that doing that. Um, and then you can also use to test things, to test how something would be shot. Another thing that's a saving grace, I think, if someone's making a short film, let's say you have a location that you basically got for a day, and then you're in the editing room and you realize, oh, I didn't get this, and there's no way in hell you're getting the location back. You can use that data to make a pickup in the editing room.
Mm.
So just know as a filmmaker, you can be covered by these things. Don't kill yourself because I just did, I love film so much. I just produced a short film. I
Right.
just produced a short film a month ago, a
Mm.
really funny one. It was really contained, but there's like it was funny when I was reading it, it was like you see there's like this sequence of like this house sinking into the ground and like the street cracking. I'm like, this is you can't do this in a short film. The whole budget is $40,000. How are you going to do this? And so, but now with AI tools, we're actually able to build. We shot plates of everything, and now we're going to build the house falling down. Which would normally cost probably that each one of those shots would normally cost a few $1,000s. We don't have a few $1,000s for those kinds of shots like to do. So you could do it with AI. So I think you can think a little bit bigger if you're doing your first short. I think teaming up with a real AI artist, like people who understand the tools, which are generally graphic artists, people from the VFX world that got hip to the tools and understand traditional filmmaking. I think it's cool to partner with someone like that as a director. Just like as a director, you'd have a great DP, you should also have a really great AI artist with you who can kind of show you how to set up camera and how to set up these things for when you're building out these shots.